Namaskar, hello and welcome to today's Learning Hour. Today also happens to be the Azad Hind Divas. It was on this day Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose founded the Provisional Government for a Free India in the year 1943. So quite a solemn occasion, and the subject matter of this series of the Learning Hour has been to learn from our doyen academicians who are really leading and living, they're crafting Bhavya and Divya Bharat across the nook and cranny of the country, and to learn from them as to how the national education policy they are transliterating into their institutional educational practices, because as they say that any national undertaking has to be championed at an institutional level. And today we have the great good fortune to have such doyens in Sir Arijit Ghosh, who gives his intellectual might to a phenomenal educational chain at Seth MR Jaipuria. And very special aspect of this educational chain is that it is serving the hinterland of Uttar Pradesh, the Aryavarta, the land of Ganga and Yamuna. So you name a city in this lovely state of Uttar Pradesh, and you will find a sprawling campus of Seth MR Jaipuria. And under the chairmanship of Madam Anjali Jaipuria, they are really anchoring the futuristic education into the traditional tenets of Sanatan Bharat. As we can say, their Gomti Nagar campus is replete with innovative interventions of, I think, of a different era, and perhaps many of us can learn what Seth MR Jaipuria is actually doing. It is reverberating that educational excellence in a phenomenal fashion. From the land of Kanpur, the land which is known for its poetry and also for the fabled Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur. We have Dr. Rita Saxena, ma'am. She heads the Scholar Mission School out there, and a phenomenal work she has been doing, leading the education community out there. And we also have been joined in by from Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar in the Maharashtra, which was erstwhile known as the Aurangabad colloquially, and Dr. Sharda Gupta ma'am from the Nath Valley School. और आज का जो प्रतिपाद्य विषय है, वी आर कवरिंग इन दिस सीरीज the 22 principles of NEP, because NEP, when it came out in 2019, it was 526 odd pager. Professor Manjul Bhargav and was the chairperson of the drafting committee. Very elaborate document which was then abridged into 66 pages. And then it had specific action pointers, but the core crux, the core spirit of NEP lies in its 22 principles. As our honorable justices in the Supreme Court, whenever they end up at some confusion or they have to interpret the prolonged, the most bulky, lengthiest constitution in the world, they come back to the preamble for that matter. So somewhere the NEP principles, they constitute the core of the letter and spirit of national education policy, its administration. So today we are deliberating upon the principle 2, which is all about according the highest priority to achieving foundational literacy and numeracy by all students by grade 3. Now it looks very tiny or very small goal, but I would invoke today's session with Arijit Ghosh as to why the framers of NEP, they accorded such a important emphasis on foundational literacy and numeracy, and that too by grade 3. And the question again in the phase 2 would be how, why, and then how are they actually championing it using the various educational tools or pedagogies out there. So Arijit Ghosh, requesting him to initiate today's session, the how, the why part, and then how we will take up in the subsequent session. Arijit Ghosh, sir. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, esteemed panelists, educators, and all those who are listening to us who are particularly passionate about early childhood education. Thank you, Rethink India. I think that's a great platform, and Dr. Surbi in particular for having me here today. I think, sir, you have set the context really well, and I don't think you have exaggerated at all when you have compared the national education policy with the preamble of the Constitution. So, at this very moment, we stand at an edge. So, we have the power to decide whether millions of children will be empowered to read and write fluently to reason logically, to act with purpose by the age of 8, because that's what the definition is by grade 3, or whether they will enter a lifelong struggle to catch up. A struggle, as research shows, many may never win at all. So the brain develops more in the first 8 years of life than in any other period. And what we do with that precious window, 0 to 8, or 3 to 8 in particular, with regards to school education, will decide the future not just of these children, but on a larger note of the society as well. Now we can wonder that why should we care about literacy and numeracy by grade 3? That's the first part of the discussion, the why part of it. So simply put, because the difference between those who can read and those who cannot, those who can do basic mathematics and those who cannot, becomes the difference between those who thrive and those who struggle, simply put. So literacy and numeracy are not just academic goals. They are foundation of human potential, foundation for cognitive growth, and also later on in their lives for economic opportunity. So as educators, we hold this responsibility in our hands. Let me start with the science behind this. The first 1,000 days of the child's life are known as the most crucial for brain development, but the formative window stretches up to age 8. Now, neuroscientific research reveals that during this time, a child's brain builds and develops these neural connections at an astonishing rate. In fact, children can form up to 1 million new neural connections per second between birth and age 3. By the age of 5, 90% of a child's brain is already developed. Now, what does this mean for literacy and numeracy? Now, I'll quote a few cognitive development experts. I'll begin with Harvard Center on the Developing Child, led by Dr. Jack Shonkoff, who emphasized that early experiences in learning, storytelling, and numeracy help establish neural pathways that are critical for reading comprehension, mathematical reasoning, as well as problem solving later on in their lives. His work highlights the serve and return, typical of, let's say, a tennis game, serve and return interactions. By that, he means that during this time, adults need to engage more with children in meaningful dialogue and activities. Now, that builds a foundation for literacy and numeracy. This is not just about the ability to read a word or solve a basic sum. This is about creating those cognitive flexibility or working memory and attention control. These are those skills that underpin every aspect of future learning. Now, if a child misses out on these foundational experiences, in some of the cases, if you reflect, these have been, especially where the parental engagement is relatively less, it becomes exponentially more difficult to catch up later. So Dr. Shonkoff says one phrase or a sentence in itself, that brains are built, not born. So the scaffolding for literacy and numeracy begins in these early years. Now, globally, countries that excel in education place significant emphasis on the early years. We all know about Finland. Now, Finland, for instance, has built its early education system around the understanding that young children learn best through play. According to Finnish lessons, formal instruction does not start until age 7. But by grade 3, Finnish children consistently outperform their global peers in reading and numeracy. We might wonder what's their secret. So simply, the secret is a child-centered approach that builds literacy and numeracy through storytelling, environmental exploration, and once again, very critical during this stage is play. Singapore offers a more structured model, I would say, as compared to Finland, but with an equally strong focus on early intervention. So the Singaporean education system, renowned for its rigorous standards, ensures that literacy and numeracy are ingrained in children from the earliest years. So there is a work done by Professor Fernando Rimmer, educating for global competence. So Singapore's model incorporates early detection of learning challenges and offers tailored support. So the remedial, which we talk about in Indian parlance, to ensure that by grade 3, all students meet critical literacy and numeracy benchmarks. Now, one more research I would like to quote, this is the last part of it. Uh, Children's Reading Foundation that reveals that children who are not reading proficiently by grade 3 are 4 times more likely to drop out of school. So it's far more adverse or critical area which we are dealing with. This startling statistic is echoed in studies across the world. If foundational skills are not acquired early, the gap only widens later on in life, creating a cascading effect that impacts future academic success. Also, as I mentioned a little while earlier, it also mentions economic opportunities through job prospects, and with it comes the overall well-being of an individual. Now, there is a term called the Matthew effect, first coined by Keith Stankovich, which illustrates how early success in reading and mathematics leads to more success, while early failure compounds learning difficulties, leading to a persistent and often insurmountable challenges or disadvantage they have. So, without any doubt, the need for early development and attainment of foundational literacy and numeracy is a prerequisite for later success in academic proficiency. So, I think this is where I would like to stop highlighting why NEP and the NCF for foundational stage is so very focused on developing foundational literacy and numeracy or the attainment of that by grade 3 or by the age of 8. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. You have really initiated this discourse by laying the foundations of why literacy and numeracy is so very pertinent. I would now come to Dr. Rita Saxena, ma'am, and pose the question a bit differently that India has been more of an oral tradition and padhna or likhna. Along with that, sunna and bolna has been quite central in our traditional learning pedagogy. So, would you like to contrast upon the literacy and numeracy from a hearing and speaking perspective, in addition to the writing and the reading part of it all, just contrasting it over there in your experience? Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself here, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, please.
First of all, thank you so much to Dr. Surbi for giving the opportunity to speak in front of such panel, such educated panel and the eminent speakers. My approach is a little based on experience, not on theory, I must say, as we are working on NEP, and NEP started 4 or 5 years back, and still it is in its infancy stage, I must say. We, all the principals, maybe the new ones, maybe very experienced ones, trying to catch hold of the main gist of the things. But I must say, hardly a very few percent, I must say 10% of NEP is being taken up till date. Lot many things have been given with such an elaborated document, with such with it was the experience, it is the experience of great high educators, very great people. But for us, being in the school, adopting or adapting to the NEP and adopting it is not an easy task. As I experience and your topic, that the main priority is that we should make our children with full confidence. We should give them full confidence in reading and numbers, numeracy, you should say, that they should be competent enough till they come to grade 3, means by the age of 7 or 8 years. Sir, if you see the scenario of the schools, you will see that most of the classes, the junior classes, they are full of activity. This is the reason we keep till class 3, we stress on writing, but for motor skills, we shift to listening and speaking first rather than writing and reading only.
Mhm.
As we believe that more and more sense organs are involved in learning, more and more retention is there, more and more consolidation is there. This is really the gist of the beginning years. Like I must say that we call our junior teachers the postgraduate teachers. They are the one who prepare the children to reach to the postgraduate level. PG is not playgroup. It is really for the teachers. It's the highest uh, difficulty level for them. When you are teaching a child to hold the pencil, when you are teaching a child to sit on chair and listen to you, is the greatest job. I must appreciate to all those who are learning, who are teaching at the junior level. Most of the teachers are always there, Imam, when will we be upgraded? But I always say you have already been the postgraduate teachers. PGT is not the PG teachers, right? So, ma'am, the basic thing is that once the child is confident enough in the beginning years in holding the pencil, starting the written work, and listening to you is the most important thing. And as sir has said just now, that the brain develops during the first 5 years, it's a fact. But I must say that brain develops, but it keeps on refining throughout the life. It develops in its primary stage, means it's a slate where we can write anything. Right, this is the time when we should give the stress on joyful learning.
Mhm.
Not only reading, writing, listening, and all these things are required, but making all these things a joyful experience for a student will really bring them to the goal that we want. I I should say that in my school, during the first 3 years, 3.5 years, we have decided that they will not do any written work, right? That time we have to develop listening skills and speaking skills.
Okay.
And that time, I'm not saying that we are not giving them numbers, we are not giving them alphabets. That will help them in literacy and numeracy in the next year, means when they will be around 4 years and they will reach to junior KG or so, because their motor skills are not developed at the time of play group when they come, but they learn a lot. You won't believe, they learn more than we people can consolidate in ourselves, because because their brain works faster than us. So they sorry, they work and they speak a lot. They learn long rhymes, they learn the songs, they speak the numbers, and by the end of the first year they learn how to write also. But the
Mhm.
thing is, we have to make their learning joyful. Yes, till class third, they should know how to read thoroughly. But I am telling you, if we give them the listening part first, if the teachers have the pronunciation part, the speaking part, the without the language slangs, I must say during these days, without the language slangs, the children adopt very quickly. They always learn well, and by the time they are in class 3, they, in my school, I must say, they are good, a good reader of at least small sentences and 3 letters, 4 letters, 5 letters words and sentences in class 1. that that can be an achievement, but for that we teachers have to take too much of pains, and parents should give support at home also. Only the teacher cannot do everything. Teachers, parents, and students, if that triangle works well, I think the education will go to its zenith. And in beginning years, if even I'm not saying that every school should have the smart boards and every school should have the good IT tools. Teacher itself is more than enough. What she speaks, the way she walks, the way she talks, it all makes a child learn how to behave, how to do, how to write, how to speak. But the thing is that we have to be very particular with the teachers, recruitment also in the beginning, and training them in the way that they have to be very patient, they have to be efficient, they should be well versed with the curriculum. Definitely it has to go side by side with us, with curriculum and everything what they want we should provide them, because that is the part of the school that is most expensive one. We have to give lot many, we have to do lot many activities, we have to do lot many things in person also. And I must say that is the best thing. Suppose they are teaching colors, instead of giving them pictures of colors, if we give them the colors to splash and select some days with the colors, that idea will retain always in their mind. So that is the way, learning by activities. But in central, our curriculum, our aim has to be there. Then I think we can reach the we can get our prior things, that they should be good enough in literacy and numeracy. One thing I want to share, that while recruiting the teachers, sometimes I have seen, it's my experience, once in class, it was junior KG. I had a teacher who was very good, very fluent, very active. She does everything even beyond my expectations. But one day I went to the class and I saw all the children were taking their tongues out while conversation. I said, what's the problem? Not only one, two, three. Maximum children were doing that. Then I marked my teacher. She was, her conversation, while conversation, sometimes just to make the accent more difficult or more attractive, they do like that kind of language slangs, but the children learn. So for that also we have to be very careful. While recruiting the teachers, we should take for junior classes young, energetic, but experienced ones. And their pronunciation, their knowledge should also be up to the mark, which is very important if we think how we can get the literacy and numeracy. Everybody knows addition, subtraction, ABCD, words like, but how to deliver it and how to make it such a joyful teaching so that the children can adopt it without extra efforts is the success of the teacher. That is I
Thank you
think
so much,
this is
ma'am. You
the
have
way
laid the
how we
foundation,
can.
literacy and numeracy per se, and joyful learning. It
Yes.
remains the central goal. And teachers being the center stay of the entire educational enterprise. I think that
Definitely.
realization and that enunciation is so very central. And you have also dispelled a kind of a myth. Like, fine, teacher is the center stay, the tools and technology is just a supporting aid,
Yeah,
perhaps.
that is, sir. I must tell you, when we started that these teaching tools here in the school, even I was a little apprehensive. Will it substitute the teachers? No, teachers can never be substituted by any of the tools. They
Mhm.
are their supporters only, not the
Mhm.
substitute.
Lovely, lovely.
That
So, Madam Rita Saxena has added upon one very pertinent dimension of IKS, the Indian knowledge systems. We had an elaborate system of listening and speaking, the oral learning traditions of
that
India.
is most important.
Yeah. So in this continuation, I would now like to invite Madam Shija PR, who is joining us from Erode, Tamil Nadu, and the linguistic connect of this vast nation. And I would like to bring about another dimension of mother tongue influence, like Professor Desai, Honorable Director of IIT Dharwad. He talks about a five-language formula, which can really add up to this whole precept of literacy and numeracy, the Matrubhasha Prama the Kshetra Bahulya Bhasha, the Rashtra Bahulya Bhasha, the Vishwa Bahulya Bhasha, and the Pramatra Bhasha. So, coming from the land of Tamil Nadu, like the mother tongue influence, the language in which the students are there, what has been your experiences in really training the primary, the foundational literacy and numeracy? Weaving both the goals of an international curriculum, the English, the chaste English conversations, alongside the fundamentals of it, which comes from the family, which comes from the community, so and so forth. Madam Shija PR, ma'am.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Hope I'm audible and visible to everybody.
Yeah, ma'am.
First of all, thanks to Dr. Surabhi ma'am and Mittal sir for inviting us to this conversation. I was so happy to listen to Dr. Rita and Dr. Arjit, who was giving a deep version on that. But rightly, when they were conversing, also, as you said, sir, I was completely thinking about this Madhribhasha influence. Truly, I was actually waiting to talk that. I do not know how it merged in the same way that you also raised such a question. Because since it is from South India or maybe from Tamil Nadu, our school is not located in a hi-fi city and not in a very rural area. But still, I can see that the influence of mother tongue is very high in the children. So, bringing them into our international language, because right from kindergarten, we are trying to bring them into English. So bringing them into this English language, English ambience, that itself becomes a tougher thing where the child is totally under transition. So reading, writing, and basic arithmetics, all these three skills, fundamental skills, mandatory for their continuous education, but it has to be enhanced in a foreign language, not in their mother tongue. That makes them a truly a great transition, where we are adopting some systems, as madam said, completely into the activity oriented learning, where the teachers are giving very high priority and weekly based training on that what to be done on the next week, and the teacher, we usually make them to do that. When madam Rita was telling that where the teacher's appearance and the teacher's pronunciation, the way in which teacher pronounce, everything influences a lot. So what I do usually is make the teacher to do once on Saturday and then to implement it on the next 5 days, where the teacher has to take a key role in making them to do this. And fundamental things are very highly required, because the low learning levels in higher classes, or maybe an increased dropout reason, or they are not with proper inappropriate skills in any subject, let it be science, social science, or mathematics, we can see that the children are with inappropriate skills. They are not able to develop the skills just because of that. They don't have the proper foundation. The foundation in their language, that is the medium what in which they are learning, is not acquired in the proper way in the foundational stage, which will really give a great gap. As Arjit said, sir was telling that the kind of gap which is developing there is enhancing in every class. So it's absolutely needed to develop their learning levels in a better way in foundational stage. It has to be given in a very thorough way, which is related to the mother tongue and also to the international language, because we are continuing in international language and the child is coming from the different mother tongue. So where in grades like pre-KG, LKG and UKG, we have to make the children with bilingual methods, where the teacher is mostly going with international language and we are accepting the children continuously on always with their mother tongue. So they are coming and expressing their views, their thoughts, their mind, everything through their mother tongue and also through the actions. We teach them different actions in the junior classes to express their emotions and also to express whatever they wanted to communicate. So it's an easy way for them to communicate, which makes us also to understand what is the emotional level of the child. Along with all these skills, it's highly required to take care of the emotional status of the child in order to acquire the proper foundational stage learning. So here we are actually expecting, or we are actually making an expectation to become an independent reader by grade 3. So in order to make them an independent reader in grade 3, what we usually do is in pre-kindergarten, there will be no writing and no reading, where they are just going to speak and listen and sing alone. And then in lower kindergarten, slowly they are coming to the worlds of letters, and in upper kindergarten through the words, and grade 1 through the sentences, and by grade 2, by end of grade 2, they are going to be the independent readers. And in this process, I find a very important role for the assessment. That is assessment as per the reading, or assessment on the learning, and assessment through the learning, through the activities. It's not that it is an examination, but more towards a child-oriented or the child-centered assessment, which is giving us an insight that what is the level of the child, through which we are giving them again remedial actions on which what they have acquired, and further to that they'll be developing their next stages. So through this way, I'm very confident, and for the past 4 to 5 years in the school, I can see that all my children are independent readers. We have the struggle of those batches or those children who are getting added on in each year as a new admission. On them alone, we will have a separate syllabus and we'll separately work with them to make them again with the, going through this phonetics and the basic structure of foundational stage, through which they also become independent reader and independent arithmetic persons in the basic years, through which they are getting their basic skills, and further to that they'll easily go through the higher skills. So many people, many others will ask me, usually our school is very good and well known for the higher class achievements. How and what you will do for the lower levels? How do you manage the lower levels? This is a strategy what we are using. We make them actually ready to acquire the skills and ready to use the skills. So we make them sure that they are reading for the joy. And reading happens through the comprehension, because plain reading is different and reading with comprehension is different. So I have some special strategy and methodology on which we do the assessment based on through the reading, so that we can understand whether the child is actually reading through the comprehension or simply plainly reading. Plain reading will never help the child. Instead, we have to enable the child in order to make a reading with the comprehension. And similarly, writing also, writing their own writing. Writing is also different type. They can write by copying, they can look at something and write, they can hear and write. All these are different, where they are writing on their own, their emotions, their reflections. So through this writing, they'll be able to do the writing in a proper way. So it's mandatory to have these skills for further development. And this methodology will help them to come up with these things. And through the foundational numeracy, we have so many activities. Through these activities, the children will be able to develop a kind of mathematical thinking. It is like they can think over the mathematics by looking at everything. We make them to observe the nature, and the nature itself has got lot of mathematics in it. In the petals, in the flowers petals, for example, we ask them, hibiscus, when you look at that, see the number of petals, mostly it is same. So it is like this mathematical arrangements in the nature. Once when we learn, where we make the child to learn and observe these kind of beautiful nature, how the leaf is patterned, and how it is given in a symmetrical way, how it is given a shape. So all these kind of basic things regarding the numbers, shapes, and its methods, on its patterns and all that, the child will love the basic arithmetics, and the child will read or understand the concepts of numbers, concepts of pattern, concepts of lines and shapes and positions. So all these can be visualized. Mostly the problem arises in the junior classes is like the children are unable to visualize what we are telling, especially mathematics concepts in the higher classes. When we talk about pi or phi's or some kind of theories, it is not able to visualize, where it leads to a problem. So this visualization, when it is given in a concrete way in the childhood, in the foundational stage, their number sense becomes concrete, and their mathematical vocabulary, their sense of the different things, their words understanding, everything becomes very concrete. Through this concrete understanding, their numeracy can be easily developed. And in case of language, we usually have the methodology of language and numeracy, both like words or numeracy. We make the children to experience, that is through the physical objects, they should experience the counting or maybe some kind of addition, subtraction, whatever it is. Through the laboratory, they will experience it, or maybe in the nature they will experience. Because in the junior classes, I usually follow the Waldorf theory, where it is mostly connected with the nature. So as per the nature practices, we will make them to physically experience on hands-on things, and they will understand that, and they will experience it. Then we will make them to speak it. First, the teacher is explaining, where it is going as an oral session. Again, the child is experiencing. Next session, the child is going to speak on that. Child is going to understand that, and the child will draw the pictures or maybe make the diagrams and other things with that. And the child is coming to the concrete writing. So this way, when we approach their every activity through this ELPS activity or approach, which is actually suggested by the NCERT, very easy to make the children concrete with the ideas, and it can be connected. So foundational literacy and numeracy getting easily connected, and it is getting easily approached by every child. Even if their IQ level or EQ level varies between them, it is possible for 95 to 98% of the children. And here I am able to segregate them if they find any kind of early learning challenges too. When we go through this approach, it's easy to find out if they go through some kind of learning challenges, and easily we will segregate them, and we will notify that to the parents, and through the departments we'll make them to the needed rectification, and helps them to come up. But one thing is very, very sure, that early childhood education, foundational literacy and numeracy, it's very, very important for the proper learning and proper academic development of every child. It's mandatory, it has to be given very high importance, and through that alone we can bring a concrete and proper education to the child, which will be developing and transforming into a proper human resource, which will be contributing high to the society.
I think Madam Shija Pyar has brought about a magnificent environmental exploration as the connecting tool between the literacy and the numeracy, and experiencing nature, where we all
Yes.
learn from, and the entire scientific endeavor is all about to interface with nature, and then come out with all technological innovations and things like that. So this is the phenomenal pedagogy at Sagar International School, Erode, Tamil Nadu. And I think all our three previous speakers have really dovetailed each other's thought process, from the philosophical foundations to pragmatic, practical experiences. And as Arijit sir mentioned about that, Singapore model is all about how to detect the early learning gaps. I think Shija PR ma'am is practicing it across that this ELPS pedagogy is helping out where the childs are lacking. And Dr. Rita Saxena has removed the entire linear motive of higher and lower. She said that PG is not playgroup, it is postgraduate. So it's a complete circle of education, the circle of life we all listened in The Lion King. It is the circle of education which is coming out so very phenomenal. So भारतवर्ष के नॉर्थ और साउथ के बाद भारत के बीच में मध्य भारत से, I would now like to invite Dr. Sharda Gupta, that there is also a philosophical foundation in numeracy. Like Dr. Rita Saxena touched upon the IKS from a hearing and speaking perspective, which Madam Shija PR also touched upon phenomenally well, that in the early childhood education, let the children take on the activity based experiential learning. But then in the letters, in the numbers, there is a lot of philosophy evolved. Ek, do, teen, trai. So how, and I think I will complete the circle with Ajit sir, because Gomti Nagar, Seth Hemant Jaipuria is a spring bed of the Sanskrit intellectual traditions, where because of the personal leadership of Madam Anjali Jaipuria, Sanskrit Deva Bhasha is taught right from class 1 itself. And Shija PR ma'am talked about, yeah, okay. There might be some error over there. But then
Sanskrit is taught from nursery.
लीजिए. So it's a positive error I made. It's fine. It starts from nursery. And in fact, the modern neuralistic programming says that if training in the Pramatra Bhasha, the classical language, like Tamil, recently Bengali, many languages have now been brought about in the classical language framework, and multilingualism is again one of the NEP principles out here. So we will straddle from one principle to the other as well. So asking Dr. Sharda Gupta, who is also a person of sciences, physics and mathematics, so on, how the philosophical foundations can be impregnated well into this foundation literacy. बच्चों को बहुत दिक्कत होती है, ये तीन क्या है, what is three? Body organs are fine, but they learn a lot about the days of the week, or a lot of cosmic phenomena happens, and today people are conversant with a lot of content which is produced over there. So how the foundational numeracy, the philosophical aspect of it, can be impregnated in the early childhood education? Dr. Shadu Gupta, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you so much. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am, loud and clear, please.
Okay, so I would like to first of all congratulate Rethink India, sir, you and Surbhi ma'am for giving the opportunity. And I am amazed to hear Shiza ma'am, Rita ma'am, and Arijit sir. And this is latest knowledge that Sanskrit is incorporated from nursery. And like I'm just amazed. Like we do make children say shlokas and things like we do Om, Omkar and everything in our assembly, and that's a regular routine, which is we follow every day. But definitely teaching them, definitely in my school it occurs much later, and that gives me an idea that I can also think of going for certain things. And as spoken by everyone, 85% of the brain's development takes place by the age of 6. And then, as ma'am said, that although it is developed, but we keep refining it. And so I keep telling my parents that although like your children are already past age 6, because when they come to class 1, they are already 6-year-old. So the brain's development has already taken place. But then what now? So you have to be a major part in your child's learning, so that parental involvement is so very important, because the mother is the first child, father is the first, mother is the first teacher, father is the first teacher. We all come later in their lives. So When we talk of the numeracy and literacy, I feel first of all it starts at home and it has to be taken care at a very low level. So where they are putting their children for the pre-primary learning and the nursery and all, plays a very, very important role. And it is at this time that they develop their basic skills of reading, writing, numeracy, and that these skills shape finally their future success. So, NEP has rightly emphasized by giving the top priority to literacy and numeracy. So, actually, it is not just a goal, it has to be an urgent mission to be followed by each and every school for that matter. Without these basic skills, our students are going to face barriers to learning in all the subjects as they progress through school. And as school leaders, it is our responsibility to ensure that every child has a strong foundation. And so, in my school, if I have to teach them numbers, I take them out. I take them means my teachers take them out in the open, and we use the paver blocks which have been laid. There, the actual counting and learning and everything happens. And as ma'am rightly said, they are the postgraduates. Like I think they should be given the highest importance than the ones who are teaching class 12, because children have already been trained properly, disciplined, everything, and they come well prepared to them. The important job is done by the primary teachers and the pre-primary teachers. So their role becomes so important. So in this now, what we can do is, first of all, we have to introduce a very well structured and a very well research based curriculum for foundational literacy and numeracy. So everybody should be very, very clear, and dedicated periods should be given for language and math learning. Maths is so very important. When I ask my children, tell me 5 sentences where you are not using the numbers, they fall short of it. They have to start. When I say, okay, tell me, start give me 5 sentences. They say, I got up at 5:30. I said, look, 5:30 is a number. So without using the number, tell me something. So, it's like that. It's so very important. And as you, sir, rightly said, Mittal, sir, that padna, likhna, sunna and bolna has to start in the pre-primary stage. Likhna and padna comes later. So the pre-primary level is so very important. So adopting a phonics program for early reading is so very important. Organizing daily storytelling and interactive read aloud sessions is so very important to promote listening, vocabulary, and comprehension. Already by the age of 6, they have developed almost 3,000 words vocabulary. So we have to build upon that. Now, for numeracy, what we can do is incorporate hands-on learning tools like blocks and beads and counters to teach counting, addition, subtraction, and basic geometry. So these tools make abstract mathematical concepts concrete and relatable for young children. So these are some of the things. And activity-based learning, and ma'am was talking about the continuous assessments. In my school, there is, for class 1, 2, and 3, we do not have any kind of pen and paper test. No pen and paper test at all. It is all, we mark them on activity-based learning. So, that is so very important. Oral questioning becomes so important. Playful quizzes to track the students' progress is something which we can go for. And play-based learning is definitely, the key behind the success. And that is how.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a phenomenal experimentations at Nath Valley School. Dr. Sharda Gupta has been making, and continuously for 3 decades and counting, it's out there. We all set out the philosophical premise of foundational literacy and numeracy, and some of the other pedagogies came into that, teacher being the center stay of it, the activity-based learning. In fact, at the postgraduate level, all through in engineering, in management, all through, they talked about project-based learning. They all talk about case study based training of the managers for that matter. So why not the same pedagogy at the early childhood? What Dr. Rita Saxena talked about it. I would now like to bring up in Arjit sir, because he has a lot of inroads into the most modern, like helping with the technological tools or the other teaching pedagogies, which makes the life simpler. It might be raining outside, but if a kid is given a Khan Academy gamification kind of a tool, so can he learn the numbers well? Can he animate? Because one of the goals of NEP is also to create self learners, the learners for life. The lifelong learning is a mission. Can it be groomed? वो कहते हैं ना, शिक्षा संस्कृति and सभ्यता. So how the sanskar of shiksha can be impregnated, learning how to learn in a self learner mode, because observation is something which is all through. We keep on learning 24/7 for that matter. So Arjit Ghosh sir, something on that count, how to get the foundational literacy and numeracy so that a child really becomes a self initiated learner all through his life.
Great. So I'm cognizant of time, so I'll go very quick, and I'm going to share maybe five things that we do at say Rima Jaipuria group of schools. Okay, and that I hope would probably answer your question. So number one is we introduce conversational Sanskrit. I give stress on the word conversational Sanskrit from nursery. So I don't want to go into the research which says that structured phonetic precision. So language, Sanskrit as a language has a significant role to play in early brain development, and it supports ultimately foundational literacy and numeracy. So research is there. So what we also do is we focus on reciting Sanskrit slokas. Now that has been linked to improve working memory, which I mentioned right in the beginning, and the executive function. So these skills are vital for cognitive tasks like reading comprehension, mathematics problem solving, and so on and so forth. So also what we have witnessed, because at least in the Gomtinagar school, we have started in a very structured format since 2000 or 2002. I don't remember exactly. So it's a good 2 decades, more than 2 decades of Sanskrit happening since nursery. So what we have found out is that incorporating Sanskrit at such an early age enriches vocabulary, improves linguistic skills, and obviously supports the cognitive development. So that's the first thing I would say that we do in our schools. The second thing, what you were trying to mention about project-based learning, so what we call about a personalized learning pathway and continuous assessment. So my fellow panelists did mention about assessment as well. So we all agree that one size fits all models of education no longer suffice, especially when it is the critical years of foundational learning. So what we do at our schools is we implement personalized learning pathways from the earliest grades. So each child's progress is carefully monitored through formative assessments. Now, that does not only measure literacy and numeracy, but also map the cognitive development like capturing attention span, working memory, language processing, so on and so forth. Now, these formative assessments in our schools, in our classrooms, these are non-invasive, ongoing evaluations which provide teachers almost real-time data. So we are a very data informed organization. So we collect a lot of data through regular academic audits. So this allows us to identify children who need additional support. For instance, in literacy, a child might struggle with phonemic awareness, or let's say vocabulary development. So using this data, we create those specific intervention strategies. Third, what we do is we emphasize a lot of play-based learning, but with a purpose. So again, I will not get into the mammoth global research which is there around play-based learning, but we have created environments in our early years classrooms that encourage exploration, curiosity, joy, for example. So if we are teaching, let's say, something to do with language, you'll find children role playing in these classes as shopkeepers, interacting with each other, exchanging goods, practicing numbers as they calculate the prices in a typical marketplace, so on and so forth. So it's number one is contextual. The environment plays a huge role in learning, and also child centered definitely, but it is also reflective. So reflection is something which we try to inculcate from a very, very early age. Also in numeracy, we introduce tangible materials. So cubes, counting blocks. So we typically follow a CPA approach, which is concrete to pictorial to abstract. So children first handle physical objects, then progress to drawing representatives of those objects, and ultimately kind of learn addition and subtraction. The fourth one that we do is we empower our teachers through continuous training. A lot of training is being given, a lot of hand holding is being given. So every teacher at say Emma Jaipuria schools undergoes a regular professional development. We have our own inbuilt JLearn platform, which is typically like your Coursera, edX, MOOC courses. So some are obviously face to face, the induction trainings or certain team oriented trainings, but there is also this repository of professional development opportunities which the teacher is encouraged to do at their own pace. Every fortnight we send a teacher training resource material to our teachers for their own reflection and improving on their own practices. So again, as I said, reflection is very strong into our system. So not only students, but for every teacher, we provide an annual reflection journal where teachers document their classroom experiences, notifying what has worked, what could have been done better, so that they can automatically go back and reflect and self-improve. The last point which I want to talk about is we take parents as partners and try and work as towards building learning communities. So learning, especially at this age, definitely doesn't stop at the school gate. It equally happens in at the homes as well. So actively engage parents as co-educators. So we have programs like mathematics in daily life workshops. So where we demonstrate to parents how they can reinforce the numeracy skills through everyday activities like cooking, shopping. We also run for literacy. Reading is so we run very focused reading programs so that involve parents. Read aloud is very strong into our system. We encourage shared reading at home. So these are all research backed. So yeah, these are some of the ways we at St. Emma Jaipuria schools are committed to make this a reality.
Thank you, Arjit sir,
Thank
for
you.
sharing the Jaipuria wisdom. What really makes it such a phenomenal edu brands out there. Just quickly going because we are very short of time. Just the last comments, maybe Shija PR ma'am and Dr. Saxena ma'am, to sum up, to add upon what Arjit sir has said. Some of the how, some of the things which we can share on this learning hour. Shija PR ma'am, yeah.
May I?
Yeah, ma'am, please. Yeah.
When we were talking about this regional language implementation in our schools, one thing was coming to my mind right from the beginning. This NEP has initiated this point. If we are running an CBSE or ICSE English medium school, by the time the parents send their children, they have high expectations that when the child will be there for an year or two, will start speaking fluently in English. This is the wish of the parents, which really needs satisfaction, and sometimes we fail to in the beginning stage, I must say. Reason behind, they are coming from different backgrounds. They are coming from rurals also, they are coming from different language group also. But the parent, though the parent want कि उनको समझाया तो हमारी भाषा में जाए, पर वो बोले अंग्रेजी में ही, इसका क्या सॉल्यूशन हम लोग निकाल सकते हैं? ये एक बहुत बड़ी समस्या है. तो मैं चाहूंगी कि हमारे एमिनेंट पैनलिस्ट अगर कोई अच्छा सा सजेशन हमें देंगे तो
Maybe that's a
that will be
subject
really
matter
good
of
for everyone.
I think this is a subject matter of yet another learning hour.
Yes.
अरिजीत सर ने उसको टच अपॉन किया है
Definitely.
कि कॉन्वर्सेशनल संस्कृत के माध्यम से कैसे जो न्यूरो लिंग्विस्टिक प्रोग्रामिंग है एंड किस प्रकार से जो प्रमात्र भाषा है, द क्लासिकल लैंग्वेज ट्रेनिंग इज सो वेरी सेंट्रल कि आप बहुभाषीय बन सकते हैं बिकॉज द लैंग्वेज ऑफ फ्यूचर इज मल्टीलिंगुअलिज्म. सो समवेयर वी विल रियली कम विद दिस एक्सपेक्टेशन ऑफ द पेरेंट्स लार्जली कि भाई अंग्रेजी में गिटर पिटर करना आना चाहिए, बट लर्निंग इज नॉट जस्ट अबाउट इंग्लिश. And quickly, maybe I would request Arjit sir to respond to this query of Rita ma'am, how Jaipuriya schools cater to that. Yeah.
I'll just take a minute. I don't know whether it will completely answer ma'am's question or not. Surely it's a very critical area and it requires a lot of debate and deliberations. But what we are doing is, so our curriculum books at this age group, we have partnered with Possibility EduTech Private Limited. And what they do is the multilingualism, to take care of the multilingualism concept which is given in NEP, to make students appreciate other languages. Every grade, 4 new languages other than their mother tongue, we are exposing them to through traditional rhymes. So there is one rhyme, sorry, 2 rhymes in in term 1 and 2 rhymes in term 2. So how do we do it is, let's say a Tamil rhyme is there. So it is written in Tamil script. Then exactly the Tamil script, word by word, is translated in English, not translated, transcribed in English. Okay. So the child can actually read out the word without understanding the meaning. Then on another page, what we do is we give the meaning of that rhyme. Okay. And with an illustration of that rhyme, we pick up 6 objects and give them the English, the Tamil, and the Hindi versions of those words. So that is one small effect of giving them this flavor or pride of learning a new language, embracing another new language as well. Yes, ma'am?
Actually, we are not talking about the students learning. I just want how to satisfy the
expectation.
Yeah,
parents.
I'm
Yes,
just
yes.
coming to
That
that.
is
I'm
the
just
main
coming to that.
constraint.
Shall I add on this,
Learn
sir?
the
Yeah,
multiple
Shija ma'am,
things
please
to
come
teach
on,
them.
Shija
Yeah,
ma'am.
please.
Yeah, Shija ma'am.
The main thing is that the parent want their children should be very well versed in English
Yeah.
and they should speak fluently
Exactly.
the language without helping them or giving them the environment at home or outside the school. It is
Yes,
expected
exactly.
from us.
Rita ma'am, what you said is exactly right, because the parent who is sending to school, I have heard that once if we are sending to Sagar, we expect them to speak in English. This
They
is
should.
what pre-kindergarten parent is telling.
While at home they will speak हमार बहुआ कुछो जानत नहीं.
Yes, yes, yes,
But once
absolutely.
they come to
So,
school, they want to speak them fluently.
yes,
in
yes,
English.
yes.
This
So
is
for
a
this,
big gap which we have to work upon. How
exactly.
to satisfy the
Yeah,
learner.
I take two approach on this, multiple approach, two approach on this. First
Right.
thing is that we have parental circles in every month or maybe in 2 months once,
Yeah, that
where
too.
we make the parent to understand the reality that it is not possible. It will be coming only partially. That
They don't
understanding is first part. Second part is that we take them actually in our kindergarten group, we take them first every day outside the classroom. So we take them through the campus and we make them to be familiar about different things. We take them to temple inside the school and we make them familiar about different objects there. We make them familiar about different objects, what they see in the home. And all these things, conversation happens in the English. So naturally, the child will tell that
Something
the
going to
temple bell.
deliver at home also.
Yeah. So the
Definitely.
child will go and tell that the shrine is beautiful today. The garland on the idol is looking beautiful. So
That
which
is
makes the parent happy.
yes.
Absolutely, the parent
That
is
is the
happy.
reason we
So,
want to keep the juniors on
yes.
speaking and listening only.
Every day before eating, every day I made it mandatory that before eating the food, they will be
Yes.
telling that what is today's food. what
Yes.
vegetable it is, how it is prepared. So with these kind of
That is the way we teach the
day-to-day
children, but how to teach
conversation.
the parents?
Exactly. Day-to-day conversation, the child will be able to reflect on that. The child will be able to tell such
That is the only way.
things at home. So the parent will understand that, okay, my child is also coming up with English. And after a stage, after second standard, third standard, we give them topics and on the spot conversation, on the spot extempores and various kind of things. We just a minute and all we introduce to make them converse and to make them better. But till second standard, we usually expose them to all day-to-day things and make them to speak on that. Through this speeches, they will be able to deliver it at home also. In turn, the parents will absolutely become happy.
Thank you, Shija ma'am. I think this is what makes the learning hours so very pertinent, that these principles, they invoke a lot of conversation, lot of intertwined, I would say, experimentations and innovations. It's a long, long, long way to go. And as Rita ma'am said, that NEP has just touched upon merely 10% of what it has been envisaged. And that is why the entire spirit is to transliterate the spirit of NEP to institutional educational practices, because this vast country of so many geo-cultural locales, we have so much of differential challenges out there. NEP is just a larger guideline, but you educational doyens, they would be really championing them in their own learning communities, bringing out with challenges and brainstorming and coming to certain conclusions. Thank you so much, Dr. Surbi. A quick vote of thanks to each one of our panelists today, and we will wrap up today's learning hour.
So this has been truly a very intriguing session, and I'm sure that the practitioners' insights, like in medical sciences, we have the clinical protocols, but every practitioner has his or her journey, challenges, and I think that's where the real, the moolah lies. That is where the reading between the lines, the interpretation, the applications, that's where it all comes, and I'm sure that learning hour is going to unravel it all. And so I take this moment and opportunity to thank all our esteemed panelists. Sir Arijit Ghosh from St. M.R. Jaipuria Group of Schools, he's the Vice President Academics. Madam Sharda Gupta, Principal Nath Valley School, Aurangabad. Madam Dr. Rita Saxena, ma'am, from Scholars Mission School, Kanpur. And Madam Shija PR, Honorable Principal from the Sagar International School, Erode, Tamil Nadu. So it is indeed really precious nuggets of learning and wisdom which we have unraveled and acquired in this short span of 1 hour, and we hope to tread this journey further and take out more pearls of wisdom, and which would help each one of our edu leaders and one and all for moving this light further in the spirit of NEP. Thank you so much once again from Rethink India.
And lastly, maybe on Dr. Saxena's invocation, like maybe we would be having another series of learning hour for the parents, where they might be guided by larger such panel
Very needed,
about
very much.
putting up their expectations in the right spot, the letter and spirit of NEP and all. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Namaskar.